What is that? That is my new thermostat housing. See if we can get this leak under control because the car is not drivable. So I pulled it out once, pulling it out again because it still leaks despite replacing the O-ring. Awesome. Well, the thermostat housing is out for a second time. Anything worth doing is worth doing twice, I guess. Much, much easier and quicker the second time around because I knew exactly what I was doing and what I needed to do. And, you know, I even put some paper towels down to account for the little bit of coolant that would leak out when I pulled everything out. So, you know, second time around, you know, a little bit more. So now I need to take all, you know, let's see, this is my old one right here. I need to take off the thermostat, not housing, but whatever this jut out piece is. Got sensors to take off, the gaskets, and transfer them to the new one. And then reinstall it. So, fun times. So if you happen to be replacing the thermostat housing or the thermostat in your Hyundai Sonata, well, how is that going to go? It's going to go like this. You're replacing the thermostat. Well, you need to take off this hose connector. Now, this bolt connects to the wiring harness, the whole wiring harness here. You have to remove that wiring harness. You may be able to get away with not unclipping all the connections. Probably easier to do that. Then, once you undo this bolt to the wiring harness, to undo all the connections, I think there's 5. There's 3 on the thing. I think there's another one back here. 2 10mm bolts. Take this off, and you've got access to your thermostat. Now, it is keyed. It does go in a certain way. There's a rubber seal around it. You know, with this thermostat housing, it came with a rubber seal for the thermostat housing to the block, and for the water inlet pipe. So I got all the seals I need, which is good to know because I did buy seals. I didn't know it came with all of them. I assumed I was online for that, so that's cool. Now let's say you're replacing your thermostat housing, because I think mine has a hairline crack because it's leaking somewhere around the water inlet tube, and it's not the O-ring. So I replaced the O-ring, and it's still leaking, which is great. So what else can be? It's got to be the thermostat housing. We'll find out. So if you're replacing the thermostat housing, what do you need to replace, or what do you need to swap from the old one to the new one? Well, your thermostat, the thermostat connection, whatever it is, this harness, it's 2 10mm bolts. That's comprises all that. This thermostat, or not thermostat, temperature sensor is just a little metal ring you need to pull out and put that in there. Make sure if your seals, like these seals are brand new. I just put on thermostat housing. I'm using the ones that I bought because I think, you know, maybe they're going to be better. Who knows? But your thermostat housing may come with all the seals you need, so you may not need to take them off the old one. Is there anything else? I think that does it. It's just those few things. You know, the bracket, the temperature sensor, and your thermostat, whatever. So I think we're all set. Now, just need to put it back on the car, and hopefully it fixes my leak, because this thing has been leaking. It's been a thorn in my side. It has been annoying. And man, I looked for hairline crack. I looked for anything that seemed out of the ordinary. Didn't see it. Couldn't find it. So, like, I'm thinking, got a new thermostat housing. So we will find that out soon enough. So with this coolant leak I've got on this Sonata, I thought initially it was a thermostat housing. It's plastic, you know, the little front end fender bender on this must have cracked in the fender bender. Well, I take everything off. I don't see any cracks, no hairlines, nothing in this thermostat housing. I think, oh man, maybe I can get out of this just replacing that O-ring at the water inlet pipe, because it's leaking where the water inlet pipe connects to the thermostat housing. Maybe I can get out of this with just an O-ring. I replace the O-ring, put everything back together. Guess what happens? It's leaking. Maybe not as bad as before, but close enough that the average person would not be able to tell the difference. So I'm thinking, what is going on here? Like, what did I miss? I go over my options, and I think, all right, I'm just going to replace thermostat housing. That has to be it. So here we are. I've got the new thermostat housing. I've taken all the thermostat, you know, the connections, the temperature sensor, put that onto my new thermostat housing. I'm going to put that in right now, and man, that better stop this coolant leak. Because if not, if it doesn't, what else can I replace? The water inlet pipe, it is metal. It is not corroded. Everything is like smooth and seems normal. So I said before, I'm very confident it's the O-ring. I'm saying now I'm very confident it's the thermostat housing. I don't know if it still leaks. I don't know what I do after that. So here we are. We're gonna pop this thing in there. We're gonna see what happens. Now, hopefully it's magic, because I'd love for this car to run again. That'd be good. I mean, the only thing is just a coolant leak. The thing runs great. Runs like a top. And you know, the work I'm doing is just replacing the front and rear fender, or front and rear bumpers, because there's a little fender bender, just a little small stuff. But it's taken, like most of my projects, they all take 3 times longer than I expect them to, and this one is no exception. So let's get this thermostat housing in. So you can see that's where our thermostat housing should be. It is not there because I took it out in preparation for this new one here. You see, this is the radiator hose, The thermostat's in there. Sawed all these brackets off, temperature sensor, all that's in there. Just got to put it on the car. I even got the gaskets in there. New gaskets, because if you're going to do it right. Put new gaskets in there. So we're doing it. So I just got finished replacing that thermostat housing, well, installing it. I did not see any leaks. I kept topping off the coolant. It kept dropping down a little bit. But before, when I would top off the coolant, it kept dropping. There was a puddle underneath the car, and it was running towards me, trying to get me to step in it and make a mess of my shop. Not a puddle this time. Now, I can't quite tell there's any drips at all because I didn't quite clean up the coolant from last time because the car had no thermostat housing, so I haven't really been able to crank it up or drive it or move it, so it hadn't moved. But the puddle looks old, I guess. I don't know. I don't see any actively dripping running water, which I definitely saw before when I did this before. So it seems better. Is it completely fixed? I was feeling around the water inlet, where the water inlet tube connects with the thermostat housing. I did not feel any liquid. Like, I look on my finger, there's nothing wet, which before it was definitely wet. I'd wipe it off with a paper towel, it'd still be wet. Did not experience that this time. Crank the car up, let it run a little bit, just to let the coolant circulate, try to top it off. It didn't quite get to the topped off level, but dare I say, we're good. We fixed it. If it's not fixed, I think it's certainly drivable because I'm not noticing any leaks. I'm not seeing anything. I think it needs some more investigation just to make sure, because I like to be absolutely sure. But it certainly at first blush seems like we got it because the symptoms, the problems I had before are not there. I mean, before I was topping it off, there's a puddle underneath the car running right to my feet. Not having that now. Did not feel any liquid around the water inlet tube, and that's where it was definitely leaking. So I think we might have it. I'm hesitant to say like for sure because I've made some big claims that didn't pan out. But this, I think we got it. We are forever making progress on this Sonata. Is it done? Well, no, it's not done. My coolant leak, felt pretty confident I was going to fix it. It's this close. We're almost fixed. So I did replace the heater. What is it? I did replace the thermostat housing, and I filled it up. Much to my happiness, there's no puddle of water from underneath the car, because that was something last time I tried to fill it up. And I left it a day, and after the first day I noticed it looked like a couple drops. Okay. I did the second day. I put a piece of paper on the car to see. That's how I knew there were drops, because there's so much coolant from before and it leaked. Can't really tell just looking at the floor. So I put a piece of paper down. Second day, still a couple drops. What's going on with this thing? Is it still the same leak? I looked at where the inlet hose was leaking at the thermostat housing. That is not it. That is not wet. What did I find? I think it's the heater core hoses. You can tell they are wet around those. And so this is my guess. I think those hoses were just fitted to the old thermostat housing, and maybe they just were a little too compressed or maybe something. So I think it's just the end of that. What I'm going to do, I'm going to cut the ends of them off. There's actually quite a bit of slack in them, like way more than I need. So I'm going to cut them off right behind where the clamp has compressed them and created an imprint in them. Cut them right behind that, put them back on. I'm going to bet after that they won't leak. That's my thought. Unfortunately, there's coolant in those lines, so I need to take them off, try not to make a huge mess. Like, I've made so many huge messes with this coolant, so I'd like not to make yet another huge mess. But I think this is it. I feel pretty confident this is the problem with this leak, because it's a very slow leak, and both those lines are a little wet, and I bet it's, just that connection. The new thermostat housing made the little indentation, or rather the little extrusion, might be a little slightly different shape, causing the thing not to sit perfectly flat. Something like that, who knows. So let's get to it. Let's try not to make a mess, and let's cut these things and do this all over again. At least I don't have to take the thermostat housing off. I thought, that was my thought when I first started. I was like, oh, it's the thermostat housing. And I took it apart, didn't see any damage on the thermostat housing. I thought, well, maybe I can get out of this with just an O-ring. That was my mistake, because it was thermostat housing. So let's try to put this thing to rest. I wish there's a way to suction the coolant where I don't make a huge mess, but there is a way. I don't have a way. I'm a man of limited means. But we've got this leak and we're going to take care of it right now. Let's check this out. Look at where the thermostat housing is. There's two heater core hoses. Look, there's a little bit of moisture in that one, not much. Look at the lower one. And look at that. That is a lot of moisture. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, this lighting's kind of tough. It's a garage, man. I don't have great lighting. There's quite a bit of moisture on that. That is my leak. So at least I know why this thing is leaking, from where it's leaking. So I'm going to try it. Let's see if we can remove this hose and not make a big mess. So this is kind of the after. I've not cut the hoses, but I removed them. I didn't make too big of a mess. So you can see that is just a plastic gallon jug. I keep a lot of them on hand because it's very handy to just cut them out into the shape of a funnel. And you can see that I got a little bucket down there. Caught most of the coolant, not all of it, because it's possible to catch all of it, but not bad all in all. I'm happy with it. So now those are my hoses in question. Gonna cut them up. But you can see there's the indentation of where the clamps have been, and I'm sure just like the inside probably is not flat or it's got an indentation or something, because there's an indentation on the thermostat housing. So I'm just gonna cut them back, and hopefully that solves it. The top heater core hose really wasn't leaking bad at all. The bottom a little bit more. But let's give them a cut. I'll just use a razor blade, and we'll go on about our business, and hopefully these leaks can be done once and for all. But it's not leaking bad now, way better than it was before. Before it was an ocean. Now it's just a trickle. So, we're trending in the right direction. Did I get it? I don't know. Only time will tell. I put another sheet of paper underneath the car to see if there's any drips. I feel relatively confident. I mean, if we make this better, we're getting to the point, if we keep making this better incrementally, at a certain point it's going to be leaking so little coolant, it doesn't even matter. Like at this point, we're almost at that point anyway. I mean, a couple drops, over the course of a day, I mean, that's not terrible. I mean, probably most old cars are probably leaking a couple drops a day, and you don't even know it. But I would like to resolve this since we're here, since we're under here messing around. I think we've probably got it. If not, I don't know, maybe some like seal or hose rejuvenation thing that'll like make these things puff out and maybe get that little bit of space. But maybe we did it here. I don't know. We'll see. Sheep over under there. I'm late for a day, come back, and hopefully this thing is resolved. I mean, just didn't expect to deal with coolant. I thought I was just dealing with a fender bender. Little did I know. I think the coolant leak is done. I think we got it. I think it's put to rest. There are no leaks. Checking the water inlet pipe, checking the heater core hoses, nothing is wet. It's been a few days. I've checked. I've got just a large sheet of paper on the floor that I've put under the car to see if there's any drips, just because I haven't been able to move the car, so I can't check the concrete because that's crap all over that. It's dry on that paper. There are no leaks. I think we finally got it. Now, well, I still need to work on my fender because look, I'm gonna be honest. I've been lazy. I've not worked on the fender, even though that's a 1/16 of an inch off, and a 1/16 doesn't sound like a lot. It's enough. It's noticeable. I just need to work on it a little bit. And then I did put a couple dents in there. I need to work on that. Out of those two things, the big thing is painting my bumpers. And, well, I said I've been lazy. You know what? I've been researching paint. Automotive paint is like a whole world. I don't know anything about it. If you're watching this video, maybe you don't know anything about it. And if you do know something about it, then help me out. Because, man, I'm looking at, sealer and primer, epoxy, urethane. You've got urethane sealers. You've got epoxy primer sealers. On a plastic bumper, do you use epoxy primer? Do you use urethane sealer? And that's how you get into paint and clears and what brand and what systems, and there's just a lot. And I've been wading through that and then trying to see, is there like a automotive paint distributor and I've been looking around, is there an automotive paint distributor in my area? Now, if I find something I want to buy, where do I go? Do I just buy it off the internet? I mean, yeah, I guess I could, but it'd be nice to find a paint distributor that maybe has a little bit of insight, a little bit more knowledge, because my knowledge is certainly limited, but I've gotten quite the education. And so right now, where I'm leaning on this whole thing is I'm thinking a urethane sealer. Now, I did wade through the whole thing. With these bumpers, they are plastic. And with plastic, you need an adhesion promoter. But these things are pre-primed from wherever I bought them. And to check if they're pre-primed, you just sand them a little bit. If it's like these are black. If you sand it and it's black on the sandpaper, well, you're sanding off primer, so it's primed. If you were sanding it and there's nothing on your sandpaper, then it's not sanding, you're just sanding plastic. That's how you check that. You need to make sure that the primer is adhered properly, and to do that, what I read, is just put a piece of masking tape on the bumper. Like, press it on really well, rip it off really quick. Does the primer come with it? If so, that primer's not going to do you any favors, not going to do you any good. So I checked my bumpers. That primer, did it adhere? Yes, it did. Well, actually, did I check? I meant to check. I don't think I've checked. I probably need to check that. But if the primer comes off, well, it's not adhered to your plastic, so it's just going to come off later as you're driving your car. I don't want that. I don't think you want that. So that is how you figure out that. And if you're painting on bare plastic, you need an adhesion promoter. Now, a lot of people recommend Bulldog adhesion promoter. You can get, any paint company, they make an adhesion promoter, plastic adhesion promoter. I've looked at DuPont. I've looked at Nason, which is the cheap line of DuPont. I'm leaning right now towards PVG. Couldn't really tell you why, other than I've heard of PVG before. That really is all it comes down to. May depend on what kind of paint supplier I can find and what they have, maybe what they recommend. If I can find one, I've looked. Just looking at Google in my area, nothing comes up. Don't know, not sure. And where I'm standing, so since the bumper's already pre-primed, that primer is good. Well, asterisk, I'll need to double check that. I'm thinking urethane 2K sealer. 2K just means it's 2 parts. So you'd have the sealer. You would have, I think, there's all off the top of my head, man. I've been deep in this research. I think the sealer, a reducer, and a hardener. And then within 3 days, you need to put the base color on it. And I'm unclear exactly on color matching my base color to this silver car. I mean, can I just go to an online store and, you know, put in what color I have, my paint code? I don't know. I need to figure that out a little bit more clearly because I got no idea. From there, from the paint, then you got to spray on clear, and you've got text sheets. All your paint has text sheets that you can go and figure out. It'll tell you, you know, what you can paint, what you can put. It'll tell you what you can apply this to, you know, whether it's plastic or steel or whatever. It'll tell you, you know, how to apply it. It'll tell you, you know, I think sealer says put base on it within 3 days. Otherwise, you have to scuff it all over again and start over. Just tells you a lot of good information. So I need to figure it out and just figure out what exactly am I doing? Where am I getting this stuff from? 'Cause I don't know. This is a whole world, and like automotive paint, I did not know it was so complicated. I mean, I guess once you know, but I don't know yet. But that's what I'm looking into, and unfortunately, I've put all this time into researching this paint, and that just does not translate well to video. You know, me on my computer doesn't make a good video. So I've put all this time into it, but I got nothing to show for it. That's the way it goes. That's life. But I do have a car that's not leaking coolant. I got something to show for that, and that is awesome.